Gonna bump on. In this video, I'm going to talk about why posting more content isn't growing your business and probably never will help. So the problem with posting more is people confuse output with persuasion, and the frequency is labor. So the frequency, the more frequent you post is more work that you have to do, especially if you're building a personal coaching brand. But growth is actually influence. So you want to be influential, you want to be gaining authority. But if you're posting more, it actually doesn't do that for you. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. So most people confuse attention for conviction. So they think if they get more attention, that people are like them more. Like that's really, they think that if they get more views, that people like them more. But attention is fleeting. So if people, are seeing your reels more or seeing your carousels more, that doesn't mean that you're gaining influence, and that doesn't mean that your business is going to be able to grow. Like the most important thing is that you're gaining influence, and short-term attention versus memory, which is long-term. Memory is what the market rewards. So you want to be memorable. So conviction is formed through slowly repeated organized meaning. So you need to be more organized with your thoughts. You need to be cohesive with what you're offering. And it needs to be a story that's, people like us do things like this. Especially if you're a coach, you don't want to get watered down with how-tos and this, you want to have this doctrine of authority, right? People like us do things like this. And so the way you do that is you have to identify that you have to convince the market that the problem is real. So whatever problem you're solving, you need to make sure that the audience believes that it is a real problem. And then the cause is clear. So yes, there's a problem and the cause is this thing. And you need to be able to name it, right? You need to name the enemy, right? That's one of the strategies. So whatever industry you're in, you need to be able to say, this is the enemy, this is the cause of the problem. And then the solution is inevitable. So you want to convince people that eventually your solution, your offer is going to be adopted, it's going to be the way, and that it's inevitable. And that's how you're going to be able to install these beliefs that make finding buyers much easier than just grasping at attention. And then the last piece is that the source has to be credible. And so you have to be credible. You have to come from a position of authority. And the more that you are posting scattered content on the internet, it diminishes your authority, it diminishes your credibility. And so the four things that you need in order to, solve this problem of actually growing your business and gaining influence, not just posting more. The problem has to be real, the cause has to be clear, the solution has to be inevitable, and then the source has to be credible. So you need those four things in order for the content to actually be useful for you. And what usually happens is posting more does the opposite of what you want. It fragments your meaning, so people don't really understand what you are standing for because you're talking about 10 different things. It creates contradictions, so if you need to keep up tons of volume by posting, then eventually or oftentimes you'll post things that contradict each other. So you're not installing that one belief that you need. Instead, you're diluting your message, and that dilutes your authority, that dilutes your influence, which means your business is not going to grow as much. When you post more, it trains your audience to skim. So the problem with posting more is that your audience, by its nature, the way you're training them, is that they're not going to go deep with any of your posts. If you're posting every day, there's just too much content for them to go deep in. So if you post less frequently, then you're training them to slow down. You're saying that when you post, it's more important. And in order to crystallize this belief, which is what you need to do in order to gain authority, you need to slow their attention down. And most people on the internet optimize for grasping attention, shortening the attention, but grabbing it. And you need to do the opposite to gain influence. You need to slow the attention down. Yeah, and the last thing that posting more does is it turns you into a performer, and you're competing for novelty. So you're trying to be the new fancy, you're dancing, you're trend jacking, you're doing all these things that are not you. And anytime you're putting on a performance, especially if you're a coach or an expert, then that's going to diminish your authority, because the people who have the most authority and credibility are the ones who are just steadfast, rock solid. They're not putting on masks, pretending to be influencers, getting excited to make these videos. Every time you do that, if you feel like you're performing, you're diminishing your authority. So you don't need more messages, you need better messaging. You need one message that's arranged into a structure that the public can remember and repeat. So, the best marketing, that the most influential marketing is going to be centered around one core message that's structured in a way that's easy to remember and that people can repeat. And the way we did this with Sarah Beth Yoga is her belief is that 5 minutes of yoga once a day is better than 1 hour once per week. And so that's the belief that we want people to adopt. And if they adopt that, then our membership becomes inevitable because we cater to that crowd of, just 5 minutes a day is enough you need. Now, if you don't accept that belief, if you think that you need an hour a day or an hour once a week is better for you than 5 minutes a day, then we're not for you. And that's actually really important because as you create authority, part of what you have to do is push people away. There's got to be a gravity. So the harder you push people away, the more other people are going to be drawn to you. And you do that by establishing authority and establishing one belief. And so there has to be one single dominant interpretation of your doctrine, right? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? And that creates this gravity that pushes people away and brings them closer to you, which gives you authority, which makes purchasing decisions easier. And so, if your content does not produce dominance, if it doesn't create dominance, then posting more is only going to create noise. And so, the most powerful thing you can do is be really potent with the things that you share. And over time, that belief will accumulate. And what's tough about this framework is that you can't track belief. You can't track influence because there's no metric for it, right? You can track views really easily. You can track watch time. You can track all these things, but it's really hard to track belief, influence, just because it's almost impossible to measure. And so these ideas work, they're invisible, right? And so as you adopt them, right, you might see views go up, you might see, but what you should see is better conversations with people. They won't be saying, "What do you do?" in your inbox. They'll be saying, "How can I start? How do I get started? Where do I sign up?" You'll have better conversations as you exert more influence. And if you want to learn how to be more influential in your business, I have a free Skool group. If you're a good fit, you can apply. Just click the link below this video. And then I've got some resources that we use to build our one-person operating businesses below. And hopefully those are helpful for you as well. And yeah,